It's lovely to be back amongst friends and to have this opportunity to try to share some of the experiences. And as Peter said, there's so much to fit into so little time. But I want to share some of it as I experienced it with you today. And I think the thing that Peter's talking about there, and I think what's common to all of us and what makes the Olympics so special, was that we were all involved, that we were all passionate, that we were all engaged with it. And to me, I'm so interested in this as an example of how well you can engage a huge population to get behind something, to put effort into it, to hear the volunteers. I know we've got games makers in the room. I'm sure they're proud of their experience. But everyone will have an Olympic story. Everyone did something to make it be that successful. And we all had our plans. We all had our ideas of what might happen in 2012. I'm privileged enough to have been an athlete, so I get to stand on the stage and talk to you for 15 minutes about mine. But I know you could all take the stage and talk for 15 minutes about your story. And to me, that is what makes it so special. And what made it special was that we had our own individual dreams, and then there was a system in place to make it happen. Now, sometimes that system didn't work as well as we wanted it to. Maybe it was the ticket buying system that didn't work the way you wanted it to. In my case, maybe it was the head coach. It didn't work the way quite I might have liked him to. But you know what? I had to learn that I had to work within this system. And I had to change to fit into the system I found myself in. So, as most of you who are here know, it wasn't my first Olympics. I'd had 3 other experiences at the Olympic Games. If I was to go to the 4th Olympics in London, I had to make sure I learned from my previous experiences. And you know what? I actually had to realize I might need to change a bit. Much as I like to think I'm right most of the time, I might have to think maybe there might be another path. Maybe I might have to change myself to fit into the new world that is 2012. Because 2012 isn't what 92 was. Things that I could bulldoze through in 1992 that might have seemed a bit easier were not going to be easy in 2012. So just to put those pictures up there, a few of the things that I take from each of those pictures. 1992, I think most of you know, I was rowing with my brother. I was rowing with Gary Herbert. We were a great little team. But you know what? We had short-term goals. We wanted to win the trials. We wanted to beat Redgrave and Pinsent. That was a 6-month goal. We managed to do that, and then we had about a 4-month goal to go to the Olympics and to try to win the Olympic Games. We managed to achieve that. I still saw Redgrave and Pinsent as the opposition. Even when I was training a week before the Olympic Games, I wanted to beat them. The truth that I've got to tell you, and the lesson I probably should have learned at the time, was that I don't think Steve Redgrave saw me in quite the same way. And I think maybe if I'd learned from that, I might have been more successful in the other 2 pictures, because I can tell you that when we came into the landing stage, Steve Redgrave was the first rower that I met after I came in. And he gave me that same big hug that you saw him giving everyone this summer, but he was doing it 20 years ago. And he was very happy to see me performing as well as I could alongside him. He had no, this is one club, that's another club. I was still in a parochial bit. And what's happened in 2012 is the system has moved on, that it's not parochial anymore. The truth is I probably carried that mindset into 1996. So I'm standing there with a bronze medal around my neck. I don't look quite as happy as this year I feel with a bronze medal around my neck. Little story about that 4 that I had to learn from was that in all the time that myself and my brother rowed with Tim and Obbie, and we were together for 3 years, I never rowed in a pair with Tim Foster. My brother never trained with Obbie. We always did our own thing as 2 separate units. When we went on our trips overseas, I never shared a room with anyone except my brother. And we were always in 2-person rooms. Now, that's something that I had to learn to change. There's no point me being parochial and not wanting to learn, wanting to be part of this team, wanting to engage with these other people. I thought I was doing enough. I thought being strong and being powerful would be enough. And that was the strongest and powerfulest I ever got. But it wasn't enough. And that's what I've learned to be smarter now in 2012. And then the 3rd picture there, well, most of you know the story, but I tried to be the single. I tried to go and do my own thing. I wanted to turn my back on Leander Club, on Steve Redgrave, on Jürgen Grobler, but I didn't make it on my own. So I got invited back. Jürgen asked me to come and row with him in his team. And you know what? I didn't take the opportunity. I didn't make the most of the opportunity. So when Jürgen would say, right, Greg, do 20 kilometers on the machine, nice and steady, I'd say, can't I do 16, a bit harder? And if you're going to make me do 20, you know what? Me and my brother used to do this as hard as we could. And here I am sitting on the machine, and I can see what Steve Redgrave's doing, I can see what Matthew Pinson's doing. I reckon I could probably beat them, so I'll go a little bit harder and make sure I beat them today. I probably wouldn't do that to James Cracknell, because I might not beat him, and he'd take me up on the same game. But the point is, Jürgen had ideas of how things should be done. All the time I railed against him. He gave me someone to coach me. Oh yeah, that's quite a good idea, but I actually want to be coached by this bloke. You can even see in that picture, we're in the blue and white boat. The blue and white boat was made in Britain. Jürgen's 4, Steve Redgrave, won the Olympics rowing in that boat. I remember going to him and saying, Jürgen, can't we use the yellow boat? I really want the yellow boat. I think it's better. And him saying, Greg, forget about the boat. It's about you. It's about what you do. But all the time, I wrestled with that. And what did I end up with? Well, I could tell you, I ended up in Sydney, getting on the aeroplane, flying back for 24 hours. And if you had a medal around your neck, you turned left. And if you didn't, you turned right. And it gave me plenty of time to think about what that experience had meant for me. So, as most of you know, I then had the opportunity to really get stuck into lane 4, to work and to understand the experiences. I also started my own generation, and we'll check that there, started my own generation, and I was getting on with normal life. I was very happy with normal life, and I figured out some of these things that had happened to me from my previous experience. And until that day in 2005, I was probably going to stay happily retired. But then I think we all know what happened, and we got the opportunity to host the Olympic Games. I sat and I looked through the paperwork, as many of you will know, and my vision was born. That as I looked and saw we were going to host the Olympic Games with the opening ceremony on the 27th of July, I did a little bit of maths and realized we'd be giving out gold medals on the 2nd of August, 2012. I'd won the Olympics on the 2nd of August 1992 as a 20-year-old. Here was the opportunity to do it as a 40-year-old. This was my little dream. I didn't do an awful lot about it until 2009. I did do some rowing. I did go and race at Henley. I did go and row with a group of people who called themselves the Molesey Legends and are in their 40s and in their 50s. And I went out and I moved my level up. But by the fact that I was competing 3 times a week and noticing myself nearly beating the Great Britain under-23 team, who are training 3 times a day, by 2009, I realized I might have something. I went to the World Championships in 2009, and I met a lady who's now quite famous, called Sophie Hoskins. And at the post-race party, I remember she informed me that, in her opinion, I was a legend. I was quite excited about that. She also bought me a drink, which is even nicer. And I did have to admit I felt slightly out of place, slightly out of context, as a has-been drinking shots with a 22-year-old girl. Wasn't that unpleasant? Anyway, as I flew home, I guess I realized, am I really a legend? I don't know that I am. And I did my goal setting, lane 4 style. I realized I needed to do better than just write, win a gold medal at the top of the page. And I wrote, be a legend at the top of the page, because that went further than what I'd had before. And then I put down, win a gold medal, and then I put down what I needed to do, and then I started figuring out how to do it. What was so great was that when I came back, I had a system around me to let that happen. So I had my own dream, I had my own support team there, but we had a vision, a compelling vision for the Olympics in 2012. We wanted to inspire a generation. We'd won the games by taking those kids out to the bid. That was how we'd won it, and I had my own generation. I wanted to be part of it. We had the idea, and I was working with clients. I was working with LOCOG. I was working with BT. We were looking at saying, in 3 years, how do we deliver a flawless Olympics? What's going to happen there? And I could say, I want my dream to go alongside this dream, so I can be part of this. Within the team, we had the idea that we want to be our greatest team. And in our greatest team, better never stops. So that means there's a system in place, and that system in place will fund us at the right level over 4 years, not just looking at a 6-month plan, but over 4 years, or even, as Peter said, over 7 or 8 years, to actually develop the system to let people perform. Jürgen Grobler, I now had to go and talk to, and he had a system and a plan for what was going to happen right over 4 years. He wasn't going to be driven by what happened at the trials in April to then select his team for the Olympic Games. No, he had a 4-year plan, and I could sign up and be part of it. But you know what made it easier for me to sign up? Was he had changed a bit. He'd come some way towards me, and that made it so much easier for me to be part of it. So he would stand in front of us, and as a team would say, my dream is for us to win 6 medals with our 6 men's rowing boats. That's the 4, the 8, the pair, the quad, the double, the single. So suddenly the leader was meeting me halfway. I could be part of this dream. It wasn't that he was coaching Steve Redgrave in a 4 to win a gold medal. No, he'd changed his dream. And then I managed to establish myself as part of the team, and after 3 or 4 months of training, I got into the 8, as you'll know. I got into the Great Britain 8. That 8 was incredibly special. And why that 8 was so special was not because of how good we were in terms of talent, but how good we were in terms of how we came together. And in that team, I feel like I was able to have the most influence in terms of what I'd learned from Lane 4 and from working with businesses and taking it back into the team. And I didn't have the remit to stand at a flip chart. I didn't have the ability to run a session on how we'd work together, but I was able to role model what I thought working together was. I was able to role model what I thought having an emotional connection looked like. So to me, that meant when we sat together and the coach said the night before the race in 2010, why are you here? Why do you want to win this race tomorrow? I didn't just say, because I like winning, because I want to get a gold medal. I actually said, the truth is, I'm probably going to lie on my deathbed before the rest of you. And when I lie there, I want to be proud of what I've done with my life. And tomorrow is a moment in time where I can do something that's going to be very, very special, and I can do it with all of you guys. And I know you're going to go to each other's weddings. You're going to be each other's best men. You're going to be godparents to each other's kids. And the reason you're going to want to do that is because of what we're going to do tomorrow. Now, I didn't need to draw the triangle and tell them that we move up to an emotional level by going through our opinions and sharing some facts. I was just able to help that to happen. And what followed was then other people opened up about why they rowed, what they wanted to get out of it. And suddenly, we had a totally different dynamic within our team. We knew that someone had been bullied when he was a kid. We knew that someone had had a certain relationship with someone in the past. Those were the reasons we were there. And then we went out truly with it in our hearts to go and deliver together. Every day I proved I was a trustworthy deliverer. Every day I went out and said, I want to make myself proud. I want to go and perform. I want to go and do my best. And that built our momentum within our team because we all did that together. You know this is focusing on the controllables. You know this is what inspires us. What ended up happening was I got into the team. I got selected to be in the 8. The real truth is the 8 of 2012 had more talent in it, but we didn't connect as well as the 8 of 2010. I'd love to go into it, but I don't have time to do that here. I've got a picture of us here at the Olympic Games, heading towards the venue. When I say the system was so good, this is home advantage. Sure, there's pressure from home advantage, but everyone else was coming into the venue on a bus. It took them 20 minutes, might take them a half an hour, might take them 45 minutes. We came into the venue from a little hotel down the road, down the river, and had a 10-minute boat ride into the venue each day. That was home advantage. I don't think in this one we're actually heading down for the Olympic final because we're all a bit too smiley. But I'll fast forward us to the day of the final. And I think you'll know, we'd raced the heat and we lost out to the Germans. When we lost out to the Germans, our coach sat us down and he said, we can see what we've got to do to beat the Germans. We can look at this and we can say, the reason they beat us was because they got away from the start quicker than us. And once they got in front, we could never get back through them. And we said, what we've got to do is we have to get in front of them. We have to ask them the question. We have to challenge them and see what happens when they're halfway through a race and suddenly they find themselves in a position they'd never been in before. So we were determined that night before the race that we were going to lead in the Olympic final. If it wasn't in the first 500, it was going to be in the second 500. If it wasn't the second 500, it was going to be in the third. And if it wasn't the third, it was going to be the fourth. And we absolutely nailed ourselves to say, we're going to have to approach this race like it's a 1,500-meter race. We're going to go out, and we're not going to have the experience that the guys had had in Beijing. And we had 3 guys in our boat who'd got a silver medal in Beijing. And I remember one of them saying, I have a silver medal from Beijing, and I can't even look at it, because we never took it on. So we said, we are going to take it on. So we had the morning paddle. It was fantastic to be around the venue. Everyone was so encouraging, so enthusiastic. And to me, that was where the home crowd really played out. That was the shivers down the back of my spine, because I was conscious of everything that was going on. We warmed up and we went to the start. And as we sat on the start, I was aware that the camera was over here. And I was aware that it was looking at the Dutch who were in lane 1. And then I was aware it flicked onto us. And I heard that rumble a mile away as everyone obviously was looking at us on the screen. And at that point, the camera moved off us, and I actually was quite nervous. And what did I think of? I thought about my kids. I actually thought about my son going into bat, age 9, with a big helmet rattling about on his head. I thought about my daughter going out to do a swimming race, lining up with a bunch of other girls in a little swimming costume, having to stand on a block and dive in and go and perform. And I thought, you know what? I'm sitting here with the 8 best rowers, or 7 best rowers behind me. A guy sitting in front of me who's going to steer the boat perfectly. I can do this. I can go and do this to the very, very best of my ability. So the race started. We went out. We got into the race. We were slightly behind the Germans, so I didn't look out. I was totally committed to not looking out. As we came through 500, the cocks told us we were in second place. In the second 500, we pushed hard. The Germans didn't move. We held the gap, but we couldn't get through. And then in the third 500, the cocks pulled out all the cards. He pulled out all the tricks. He reminded Stan, who was the stroke man, who was an Eton boy, that this was his home. This was where he'd learned to row. He always won here. He was going to win. He reminded the 3 Beijing guys, they had Beijing silvers. They did not want another one of those. He reminded Alex that his daughter, Ava, was at the finish line, and he called the names of my kids. And he reminded us of the words which the coach had got me to remind us of the night before the race, which is the words that we'd used in 1992, which was, if not now, when? If not you, who? And then we went for it. And then, as you might know, we got in front. And through the third 500, we took the lead. And when he said, you're leading the Olympic final, I had that incredible rush of emotion in here, that this was actually going to happen. We asked the question of the Germans. As you probably know, the answer was that they had more than us. So we asked the question, they came up stronger. We came into that last 500, and to be really honest, I didn't look out, and I still thought I might be winning the Olympic final in this picture here as we came past the crowd, because it was so loud, and I had no idea of anything except following the guy in front. And I just followed the guy in front. I kept moving with it. In the last few strokes, I was conscious that the Dutch were coming up pretty fast and the Americans were coming up pretty fast. And on that basis, I was going to be surprised if we were actually winning. But it wasn't until we crossed the finish line that I realized that this was the position we'd finished in. So we're towards the top of the screen with the second boat down, and we've got the bronze medal. When I look at that picture, I can honestly say I feel so much better that we're in third and not in fourth. I do look at it and I think we could have won. It would have been great to have won, but I genuinely see it as being very, very happy and very, very proud to have won that bronze medal. I like this picture because it reminds me that it hurts. And I think it's worth remembering that if we're going to do stuff that's important, that's worthwhile, then it's going to be tough. And it is going to be tough, but we can still be smart and we can still get the best out of ourselves. And it's by doing things that are hard that we feel good about it and it makes them worthwhile. So we're not quite as sad as we were in the 1996 picture. I think we know we wanted to win, but I think we can look ourselves in the eye and say, you know what, we went out to do it. We absolutely laid it on the line. We can all look ourselves in the eye and say we put it out there and we did our best on the day. You might have noticed in the photo earlier, we were rowing into a big headwind. The final took us 5 minutes, 51 seconds. The heat took us 5 minutes, 20. So if any of you have ever sat on a rowing machine, go as hard as you can till you really, really want to stop and then do another 30 seconds. Because that was probably the difference between silver and bronze. That was probably the fact that we laid it on the line and went for it that actually maybe cost us that silver medal. But you know what? I still feel, oh, I wasn't expecting that one. I still feel very satisfied with it as a thing because it was part of something so special. Okay. I'm now going to show you myself having a dope test. This is partly just the ladies in the room, but there's also a point to it. I guess the point to it is actually to say, this felt like a very personal thing to me. And at the time, I was in there, I was focused on myself, I was focused on doing my thing, right up to the moment of completing the race. And then I started to realize what a big thing this was for everybody else. I mean, obviously, it's a picture. In it, you can see I'm giving blood. I'm glad to say that's been frozen for 20 years. And that will then be kept along with everyone else's, and at any stage as they want to, they can get it out and they can test it. And to me, that's a fantastic step forward, particularly in the light of the news that we're getting this week about Lance Armstrong. But take it on from me to inspiring a generation. So this is me with my kids. This is my generation, and I feel like I did my bit. I did inspire them. I did be a good role model for the whole time that I went out and did it. And then I got to be part of our greatest team. And when I moved up to London and I met the rest of the athletes and this snowball was starting to roll, I was seeing just how special this was, just how great this was becoming, and how we were giving each other confidence, and how this team was so different to what it was in 1992 or 1996, when remember we won 1 gold medal, and now we've won 29 gold medals. What was different? Well, we were all there in the same tracksuits. We were all there following each other on Twitter. We were all in the same training facilities. We all have dog tags with numbers on them. I'm number 166 out of 544. We all wore those things, and we were together, and we were one team. And there's so many things I could share with you that really made it come together as one team. But to me, it was being under this very common vision of inspiring a generation. And there to be at the closing ceremony and to be part of celebrating it all, to me, was just the moment for me when it all landed. And one of the proudest moments I had, actually, was seeing a bunch of foreign visitors unfurl a banner, and their banner read, "Thank you, London, well organised." And to me, I think we should all take pride in that. And I certainly took pride in it. And I think it's something that, as I hope you've picked up, we started with a clear vision at the top that went right down to people like me and everyone else, but then it reverberated all the way back up again. And to me, that's what we can do, which is very special, by having a great vision and a great one-team approach. And I think that leads to great engagement. Okay, thank you.